Now I know what you may be thinking. Ugh, another Paramore video? What is this guy, obsessed or something? Well, yeah, I mean that's called being a fan, and I wanted to try my test episode of this new series out on them since I knew quite a lot about this band and would have to do still a lot of research, but less research than I had to. So, welcome to the new series, The History of, and today I'm going to give you the history of pop-punk band Paramore and how they became to be to where they are now. So yes, without further ado, let's not waste any time and let's just get things started. So for those of you that don't know, Paramore is an American rock band. They're from Franklin, Tennessee, and they formed in 2004, and the band currently consists of Hayley Williams on lead vocals, Taylor York on guitar, and drummer Zach Farrow. But that's not how they started out. So without further ado, let's just start off with the early years of Paramore from 2004 to 5. In 2002, at the age of 13, lead vocalist Hayley Williams moved from her hometown Meridian, Mississippi to Franklin, Tennessee after her parents' divorce, where she would end up meeting the brothers Josh and Zach Farrow, and they were at a weekly supplemental program for homeschooled students. But shortly after arriving, she took vocal lessons from a vocal trainer named Brett Manning, and prior to forming the band, Williams and the guy who would eventually become their bassist, Jeremy Davis, along with a friend of theirs, Kimmy Reed, took part in a funk cover band called The Factory, and Josh and Zach Farrow just did this thing where they practiced together, after high school. And it was one of those things where they all wanted to form a band. Now, Hayley Williams originally was signed by Atlantic Records as a solo artist in 2003, but she didn't want to be known as the next Madonna or, just be a fashion icon or a, pop icon. She wanted to form a band with her friends, and there you go, she did. It ended up being Hayley Williams, the Farrow brothers, and Jeremy Davis as the first original lineup of Paramore. And around 2005, July 26th of 2005, they released their debut album, All We Know Is Falling. This one they filmed in Orlando, Florida. But shortly after arriving in Orlando, Florida, Jeremy Davis left the band, citing it was personal reasons, and this is where most of the lyrical content from All We Know Is Falling comes from the divorce of Hayley Williams' parents being big in the lyrical content here, to Jeremy Davis being the main, focus. Like I said, he had left the band. He was 20 at the time, while the rest of the band members were not even 18 yet. I mean, heck, Zach Farrow, their drummer, was only 12 years old when this album came out, 12 or 13 years old, and that's kind of weird. Their first single was Pressure, which came out August 2nd of 2005, so just a couple weeks after their album came out, and it did peak at number 62 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart, but it never really garnered any, big, attention. The album overall only charted in Japan, which is where they became famous. This would end up being their only album with Jason Bynum and John Hembry, who did most of the bass, while Jason Bynum did rhythm guitar along with Hunter Lamb for a little bit as well. They were all over the place already with the lineup. They were still a young band, and heading into 2006, Jeremy Davis actually returned, and guys like Bynum and Hembry left, and there you go, the original lineup was back together. It wasn't until January 2006 that the band, after taking part in a Go West tour where they played alongside Seattle bands Amber Pacific and The Lashes, Hayley Williams ended up recording in the spring of 2006 a cover of the Foo Fighters' My Hero, an acoustic cover, which would be seen on the Sound of Superman, the Superman Returns soundtrack, which, by the way, horrible movie, but a nice decent song on here. I mean, it's like I said, an acoustic version of the song, and it's actually pretty good. And then they would hit it big a year later without them even knowing. Now, before the band started working on what would become their most iconic album, 2007's Riot, they actually expelled Jeremy Davis from the band due to his lack of work ethic and participation, and stuff that Zach and Haley, didn't agree with. And that was according to Josh Farro, but an agreement involving the remaining 3 members and Davis was actually reinstated, and they added Taylor York as the new rhythm guitarist, making him the 5th official member of the band. As on June 12th of 2007, they released their hit breakthrough album, Riot. Now, it wasn't until about a month afterwards, June 4th of 2007, that they would release Misery Business. So they actually did release a single beforehand, and that single helped them take off and helped promote the album, I think, the way they wanted it to be, which they wanted to let people know who they really were. And that single not only was big, I think, for them, but it showed that a female lead singer can lead a rock band, especially one in that genre, because pop punk, as we know over the years, had been ruled by guys who were known to have this nasally, whiny voice and all this stuff, and Hayley Williams just kind of exceeded that with the whole tough girl persona, like, I don't give a crap, and just paved the way for female lead singers anywhere. Through the success of that album, they began touring, and March 24th of 2008, they made That's What You Get, the last single off of the album. And it took so long because at the time the band was feuding, as it would start over the years, and they didn't know what was going to happen with them. So they made that video, they filmed it at each other's houses just to kind of say, hey, we're having fun again. And a couple months later, they would actually release a song for the Twilight soundtrack called Decode, which, once again, horrible movie, but had a really oddly weird soundtrack. I don't know, it's just weird. But yeah, and then this would lead to their next album. So in January 2009, Josh Farro spoke about the band's next studio album, and it says that they were going to try to record in their hometown in Nashville, and they ended up hiring Rob Cavallo for this one song, or for this album, and they did for Decode. They liked it so much that they wanted to work with him on a full album, and they said it was a good experience, and he pretty much made them go out of their comfort zone. I mean, there was a lot of different things about this album, including the lyrics, which definitely everybody went after each other in this album. I think the lyrics tell you that, like songs like Ignorance and playing God, and feeling sorry. It's just one of those albums where you can tell they were frustrated with each other, but they thought if they made an album toward each other that the tension would go down, and sadly that did not happen. This album debuted at number 2 in the US in the US in its first week. And a lot of shit started happening again to where, they had to cancel some shows in the fall of 2009 because Hayley Williams became infected with laryngitis, and they ended up playing MTV Unplugged about a month later or so. And after playing 15 sold-out tour dates, that's when everything happened, as on December 18th, 2010, Hayley, Jeremy, and Taylor released on their website, Paramore.net, saying that Josh and Zach Farro were no longer a part of the band. They left, leaving the 3 members to themselves. And basically what was said was Josh Farro accused Hayley Williams of being manipulated by her management, treating the rest of the group as her solo project, and claimed that she was the only member of the band who had been signed to Atlantic Records, while bandmates were simply riding on the coattails of her dream. And Williams, I don't think Williams ever made a full-on statement about this, but she did say that the band was going to be around, but the next studio album might take a while. But on June 3rd of 2011, releasing Monster, which was featured on the Dark of the Moon soundtrack, Transformers Dark of the Moon soundtrack, which for the 3rd time, terrible movie, but great soundtrack. And on December 14th of 2011, they ended up releasing the Singles Club EP with 4 new songs, which included the song Monster, along with Renegade, Hello Cold World, and In the Morning. And this pretty much told people that, hey, Paramore's still here, we're kicking it larger than ever, and a new studio album will be out soon. It was the first time the band was a trio, as the remaining members, Williams, Davis, and York, took the reins, and Taylor York had a lot of work on this album, playing lead and rhythm guitar while also playing drums. Now the challenge was, how are they going to make a studio album when they really haven't thought about making a new band member? But things got better, and 2013 was the year for them. January 22nd, 2013 was the moment we had all been waiting for. Paramore released a new single, which was called Now. Awesome music video, would recommend checking it out. After that, an album date ended up being announced, and on April 5th of 2013, Paramore released their self-titled fourth studio album, and it's one of their longest albums to date. It was 17 songs, over an hour long, and they did get a drummer for this album, Ian Rubin. He never became an official member of the band, but he did the drums on this album. So did Taylor York, but it was mostly Ian Rubin. And this one saw the band take a more poppier direction, as Hayley Williams stated, now that Josh and Zach Farr were gone, we feel like we can get more creative with our music and not have to do the same thing over and over and over again. And this ended up being one of the best albums of 2013. It sold #1 in its first month, and it is just full of great songs, and the song Ain't It Fun actually helped them win a Grammy 2 years later, their first and still only Grammy win to this day. This album was just more about focusing on the good things than the bad things, as the lyrics were happy and the songs just made you want to dance and sing along, and that's basically what Hayley Williams and Paramore said they were going for at this point. And then, once again, shit hit the fan. On December 14th, 2015, bassist Jeremy Davis would leave for the second time, and in March of 2016, he got embroiled in a legal battle with the band, claiming to be eligible to enjoy the benefits of business partnership with Hayley Williams, as he was one of the co-owners of the band. Now, the case was quickly dismissed, and Hayley Williams and Taylor York did hand over a breach of contract, which entitled Jeremy Davis to ownership and authorship of the songs off the self-titled record, including their Grammy Award-winning Ain't It Fun, and he was eligible to enjoy the benefits of earning the two awards received from the song. So he did get his Grammy. Once again, a lot of people question, it's just Hayley and Taylor now? Is Paramore still going to be a thing? Well, it didn't take long, as on January 19th of 2016, pretty much before the lawsuit happened and kind of in the middle of it, Hayley Williams announced herself over her Twitter that the band was actually in the process of writing their fifth studio album. And on June 8th of 2016, the band posted on their social media a short video of themselves in the studio, and people realized something weird. Zach Farr was behind the drum kit again. Now, he was never supposed to be back as an official member, but on February 2nd of 2017, the band announced that Zach Farr was returning as the full-time official drummer. And then finally, on April 19th of 2007, the first single for what would be their fifth studio album was released, and that song was Hard Times, which once again saw them do a different style of new wave, synth pop, and even disco, but still keep that rock feel to it. And then, not in days before the album came out on May 3rd, the second single, Told You So, came out. And then, finally, on May 12th of 2017, the album After Laughter was released, and it was highly praised as being the album that Paramore more than less needed to make, as it saw them take this way different approach in the way they wrote things, and the album ended up being a lot more sadder than the last one, I should say. The lyrics were more about depression and just self-doubt and just not really being happy with yourself, and but people liked the fact that not only were they sad lyrics, but they were mixed in with these happy beats that just made you want to dance. So at the same time, it can make you feel sad, but it can also make you feel happy at the same time. This was the second consecutive time that they had Justin Metal Johnson produce the album. He did bass guitar, and Aaron Weiss was even featured on No Friend, the spoken word instrumental song that saw Paramore experiment and have a feature for the first time on one of their regular albums. And now all I can really say is, after the release of 5 singles for the album and their Tour 5 tour being over, They have a couple more tours left in America, or outside of America, before they start taking a big long break, and I'm assuming within the next couple of years we'll hear something new. But this is twice now that Paramore looked like they were down and out, and they came back from the dead and gave us some fantastic and great music. So yeah, only time will tell when Paramore is going to give us something new, now that the lineup is finally stable for the first time in a while, and they all seem happy with each other and happy with what they're doing. It'll be interesting to see the next step they take and when they'll actually get us something new. So yes, folks, that was a quick, brief history of the pop-punk band Paramore. Tell me in the comments below, what band or artist do you want me to do the history of next? Because I promise you, I will do it. But these aren't going to be easy to make for me, but we'll just have to see. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this test episode, the pilot episode. If you did, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will catch you guys in the next one.